Today, we're diving into a really powerful philosophy coming out of Moana. That's the vast ocean region of the Pacific. And it challenges some of our most basic ideas about reality and how we even know things. It's a fascinating journey, so let's get right into it. So, I want to kick things off with a pretty fundamental question. Is there only one way to think? One single right way to go about learning and gaining knowledge? It sounds simple, but the answer has literally shaped the world we live in. You see, for the most part, education around the world has been built on one specific model, the Western tradition. You can almost picture it like a straight, linear staircase where everyone is climbing up towards one single truth. But that's not the only way. Indigenous knowledge systems, for instance, are often much more like a thriving ecosystem. They're holistic, interconnected, and they embrace many, many different ways of knowing. And for a long, long time, that single story just became the default setting for education. What that often meant was that other totally vital ways of knowing got pushed to the side, not because they were wrong, but just because they were different. But now, a powerful new voice is joining this global conversation, and it's coming from Moana. This voice isn't just asking for a place at the table, it's asking us to completely rethink the shape of the table itself. This whole new approach is just beautifully summed up by Professor Siosio Alafatani. He calls the Lo'au of Ma'ananga Journal a living vessel of dialogue between indigenous and global knowledge systems. And that word, dialogue, that's everything. It's about a two-way conversation, not a one-way lecture. This very mission is the beating heart of Lo'au University. It's a totally modern school, but its roots go way, way down into the ancient philosophical traditions of Tonga. And here's where we see the university's core idea. And honestly, it's a real game changer. Instead of the usual goal, education for knowledge, their philosophy is education for thinking and life for contemplation. That is such a huge shift, moving from just collecting facts to actually cultivating how we think. So, how do we even start to get our heads around this different way of thinking? Well, it all begins by rethinking the most fundamental things we take for granted about reality itself. I'm talking about time and space. It all starts with this core Moanan concept called Ta-Va, which means time-space. In this view, time, or ta, and space, or va, aren't these separate, empty boxes that things just happen inside. No. Instead, they're a single, interwoven reality that's always fluid and defined by the relationships happening within it. And right here is the key difference. A common Western view might see time and space as two distinct categories, right? But the Monacan view of Ta-Va sees them as this inseparable, dynamic whole. In fact, one scholar described time as the very activation of space. They literally can't exist without each other. Okay, so if reality is this interwoven flow of time-space, how are you supposed to navigate it? How do you think inside of it? Well, the answer lies in another incredible concept, the path of Vivanga. Vivanga is described as a Moanan-Tongan contemplative pathway. But don't hear contemplative and think passive, not at all. This is a tough, active process of really deep questioning and reflection. The whole point is what the source material calls conceptual transformation. It's about fundamentally changing how you see something to get to a much deeper insight. And this process isn't just one thing. Think of it more like a whole intellectual and spiritual toolkit. It combines that quiet contemplation, like meditating and pondering, with super rigorous critical analysis. And this is crucial. It also includes creative synthesis. It's about taking ideas apart, sure, but also about weaving them back together in new and powerful ways. And hey, this isn't just some vague, abstract idea. It actually has a really clear logical structure behind it. For example, the source material lays out this line of reasoning. If all beings exist in this reality of space and change, and Vivanga itself is a kind of being, an entity of thought, well then it too has to operate within that same dynamic reality. This just goes to show the philosophical rigor we're talking about here. So what's the endgame with all these concepts? Is the point to just throw out Western thought? Absolutely not. It's about something way more ambitious. It's about building an intellectual bridge to bring different ways of knowing together. And this whole bridge-building process has a name, Vafalosaka. It's defined as the amalgamation, the careful, thoughtful blending of Tongan, Moana, and Western knowledge. The idea isn't to pick a winner, but to weave them all together into a cohesive whole, to find those universal qualities and the shared understanding that connects them all. And that is so key here. The goal is integration, not replacement. It's like a weaver using different kinds of thread to create a stronger, more beautiful piece of fabric. This philosophy aims to build a richer, more complete picture of the world by combining the strengths of multiple knowledge systems. But you might be wondering, is this all just an interesting academic exercise? Far from it. This way of thinking has urgent, real-world consequences for some of the biggest problems facing global education today. The source material points out several major challenges that this philosophy takes on directly. First, that dominance of Western paradigms we talked about. Second, the brain drain, which is when local talent gets pulled away from their home communities. And third, the language and communication gaps that get in the way of real global teamwork. I mean, these are massive, systemic problems. And when you look at these challenges all laid out, it becomes crystal clear that a one-size-fits-all approach to knowledge just doesn't cut it. A philosophy of synthesis like Philofelica isn't just some nice ideal. It's a practical necessity if we want to build a more fair and effective global academic community. The university's motto just perfectly wraps up this entire vision: omnipresence in Marangana. Omnipresence speaks to that universal global reach, but Marangana grounds it all in the deep philosophical roots of the ancient Luawa tradition. It's about being global and local at the exact same time. So in the end, Lao University is offering more than just an education. It's offering a blueprint for the future, a future where knowledge isn't just one thing, but is diverse, integrated, and deeply, deeply contemplative. Which brings us right back to where we started, but now with a whole new perspective. What if education wasn't just for knowing things, but for truly thinking? What kind of new possibilities could that unlock for every single one of us?